Hello everyone, welcome back to RetroComs. As you might have guessed if you were keeping up with the results of the poll, we will be checking out some BlackBerry phones today. Now, historically, BlackBerry has had a reputation for being business phones, but they were also kind of a status symbol, kind of like what the iPhone is today. They were some of the first smartphones, and it might not be obvious at first, but as you will see as we go through this video, there was quite a bit of innovation along the way. Sadly, I don't have a whole lot to show today, just 12 little handsets plus maybe a bonus one. But let's get right into it. First off, we've got this BlackBerry Pearl, official model number 8130. It's in a lovely pink color, but it has definitely seen some things. Fun fact about this phone, it is actually one of the first devices I worked on. Its owner had dropped it while on vacation at the beach. And as you can imagine, it took on a bit of water. But I was able to clean off the motherboard and actually save the pictures off of this one. It's got a cute little keyboard. I imagine you would have to tap each key once to get the first letter, twice to get the second. It's kind of an odd layout if you're used to like a standard flip phone or candy bar style device that had T9. But I imagine it would not take long to get used to typing on this at all. Very narrow, compact phone, especially comparing it to its BlackBerry Curve sibling here. Hate to use objects for scale, but it's the easiest comparison I've got today. Next up, something most people don't think of when they hear the word BlackBerry in phone context is flip phones, but they did, in fact, produce a few of them. This is the BlackBerry Pearl Flip 8220. It is on T-Mobile. I have another one of these as well, this black one. It is the model 8230 on US Cellular. I have a third one that instead has the German keyboard layout, which would have the Z and the Y keys transposed. But sadly, its charging port does not work. I don't count that as one that is in the collection properly. I need to get it fixed. I need to find a way to solder a micro USB port back onto its motherboard. But we do have these two for now. Hopefully we'll get the German one fixed, as it is one of my favorite devices. I would love to get that one back up and running. Next up, we have this BlackBerry Curve 8300. Again, keeping with the little trackball here, which is not something that I have spent too much time discussing, but it is a trademark of BlackBerry to have this central trackball for navigation. Where most manufacturers elected to use directional pads, BlackBerry opted for trackballs and later track pads on their Curve and Bold and Pearl series devices. Next up is this lovely pink BlackBerry Curve 8330. It is on Verizon. These are all a little bit scuffed up, beat up. They are not in mint condition by any means. And as you'll notice, little numeric keys over here. That is how you would dial on one of these, since there is no dedicated number row on these BlackBerry devices. You would use these as your keypad. Similar story, I forgot to point this out with the Pearl, but similar story here, except of course these are used as your numeric keypad. I'll have a look at the Pearl Flip just to show that off real quick, and because I enjoy these Pearl Flips. There are its numeric keys, since sadly no dedicated number row on these. Next is the 8350i, and it differs from the other Curves I've got here because it is on Nextel and is equipped with their push-to-talk feature, where you'll see it's got this push-to-talk button over here on this side. This one does not have such a key. There is a function key here, but I'm sure it just launched the camera or something like that. Whereas this one got this nice, bright, easily accessible push-to-talk button with the same function keys over here on the sides. And moving down to the next row, we have this BlackBerry Curve 8530. It is on Verizon, and it is this lovely shade of lavender. And here we can tell that this is a newer revision of BlackBerry because they ditched the trackball in favor of a trackpad, which these trackpads were a lot less prone to failure. Trackballs could get kind of dirty and wouldn't read as easily, whereas this is just one solid component. And of course, it can also be clicked to make a selection. Its little number pad is right here. You can't tell as easily because the accents are just a dark purple, but of course, that is where you would dial to make a telephone call with this BlackBerry device. Next is the 8700. I believe this is actually the 8700G, since it is a GSM device. Now, its model number puts it after all of these devices, but I do believe this one was launched earlier. Just looking around at the design language used here, at the more chunky plastic frame, the absence of a trackball or trackpad, I believe this is one of their earlier revisions, though I did place these in numeric order rather than in order of release, so that it would be easier for me to keep the model numbers straight. And here we have the 8800, I believe this one is. They called this a Pearl Plus. I guess it being thinner, just a little bit thinner than the Curves, I believe. I'll compare to this one. It is, I don't know how well you can see, just a few millimeters thinner. I'm not going to take precise dimensions of these. You can look those up online if you are curious. I guess that is why it is called a Pearl Plus, but initially, before I did a little bit of research for this video, I thought that this was maybe a Bold. I would not have guessed that they made a Pearl Plus line, given that Pearl was their thinner, their more compact series of devices. If you'll also note here the absence of a camera, which as we can see on these devices, there is a camera present, but this one is lacking in that department, as well as its counterpart here, which you may have noticed that. The BlackBerry Curve here, though, does have a very small camera. It's not as prominent as on the other devices here. It's just tucked away in its own little corner, not too obvious, not too pronounced, but as it was at the time, the camera was not at the forefront of BlackBerry's concern. They were focused on making phones for business to enable ease of communication for corporate employees, and with a focus on security so that those communications stayed private. These phones were not toys, they were tools, and BlackBerry was very focused on that message in their marketing at the time. Hence, they were kind of seen as a status symbol, kind of a look at me, I'm an executive, I have a BlackBerry. But were not always the most popular with the masses, and that could have been part of why they did see a decline. as well as the fact that there was steep competition from the likes of Motorola and Samsung and HTC with their Android devices, and not to mention Apple with the iPhone. But moving right along, here we have the BlackBerry Bold 9000. It's a very substantial device in the hand, and it includes the signature trackball for the BlackBerry. It's got kind of a leatherized back with a nice metallic trim around the edges. This was clearly meant to be one of their higher end devices, and still feels quite premium in the hand. And here we have the BlackBerry Curve 9300. No trackball, just the trackpad. And another thing I'll point out, this one uses micro USB, as well as its purple counterpart here on the far left. Whereas the rest of these devices up to this point, with the exception of the Pearl Flips, most of these use mini. But these, you can tell that they came later because they use the micro USB. Yet their model number order would suggest otherwise. But it too has nice tucked away little camera. BlackBerry logo on the back. Nice textured battery cover on this one. I just hope that the soft touch doesn't begin to fail and get all goopy like these three curves up here. I didn't spend too long examining those devices, didn't look over them too much, because I did not want to touch that soft touch. I should really start wearing gloves when I film these videos, because I hate the feel of that goopy, sticky soft touch. Oh, and I just noticed this. This is one way to differentiate the GSM and CDMA models of the curves. Did not realize that the GSM ones have this extra little color-matched case piece on the back, while for the CDMA variants, this is not color-matched the front back here. It is black to match with the edges. Just now noticed that about these devices. And here, my favorite one out of the whole lot, the BlackBerry Style 9670. And it does live up to its name. It is quite the sleek little handset. Not much soft touch on here. That is a good thing, because that stuff will degrade over the years. It's got a trackpad instead of a trackball. And unlike the nomenclature used for the Pearl Flip there, they gave this one its stylish name instead of calling it, say, the Curve Flip or the Bold Flip, which might have given it a bit more traction with prospective users. But of course, the name does fit. I love the purple color, and something about these flip phones that flip like this and contain a full QWERTY keyboard inside. The only other devices that do that are the Samsung Gloss and the LG Lotus. And those are quite interesting devices, and this one is right up there with them. Not many companies did that. I love this design. And here it too has a micro USB. And Apple should have taken note from BlackBerry and retained the headphone jack, as BlackBerry had through all these different revisions of devices. And next, I hate to show you a device in such sad condition, but it is worth noting, last but not least, the BlackBerry Torch. With its screen that slides up and BlackBerry's signature keyboard below. Sadly, this one is busted up, lacking a battery and battery cover. I need to locate the necessary parts to get this one restored to a condition to which I would display it in my collection. Because this is sad. This needs to be fully restored. This is such a neat little design. BlackBerry was famous for their keyboards. Users say that it was a very comfortable typing experience on any BlackBerry handset they picked up. And as someone who used to love a good physical keyboard back in the day, if BlackBerry had released a slider that would slide up like that instead, like say something the likes of Motorola's Droid series, that would have been quite interesting to see. I believe they might have had something like that at one point, but they weren't really known for flip or slide devices and were more known for this signature style of device. To the point that even phones such as the Moto Q get mistaken for BlackBerries by those who don't know. But regardless, it is quite the interesting lineup of devices they have here. I would love to acquire more BlackBerry handsets, such as maybe a BlackBerry Priv or the BlackBerry Key series. They have quite the track record for devices through the years. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. It's been a pleasure to make this one. These are such neat little phones, and I've learned a lot researching for this video. This is RetroComs signing off.